Okay, I am back. I am back in the studio, excited to start getting this podcast going again. And I think the first thing I want to do is change the name of it. Change the name from Get Busy Living, which I'm all about, to Maximized Man, because that's my branding. That's what I do. I help men maximize their life. And I've said it before, but it's worth repeating, with my 5 lifestyle principles: mindset, meals, movement, community, and integrity. So those are the things that we're going to be talking about, but I digress. I'm going to go back and give you the reasons that I haven't been here on the Maximized Man podcast for a while. My life has definitely made a shift. It's moved in a different direction. There has been a few things that have set me off course a little bit, but actually set me on course. The thing that I thought was going to set me off course really got me on a course that I'm really excited about in a weird way. If you follow me, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't know how long it's been since I've shot an episode, but since I've been here, I've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, and my older brother Rocco died in the same month, within a couple weeks of each other. And it was definitely a time in my life that got me thinking about a lot of things, certainly. And, you know, and I turned 60, all three of those three things at the same time. Turning 60 in and of itself is enough to get people thinking about life, what they've done, where they're going, who they want in their life, the importance of doing things that are meaningful and less self-serving. So with that being said, I'm going to try and break this down to you as much as possible, starting first and foremost with just me turning 60 years old. We are all getting older. Regardless of how old you are at least 2 minutes older than you were when you started this podcast listening just a couple minutes ago. That's the reality of the life that we live. So if you're 20, 30, 40, eventually, God willing, you're going to be 60 years old, looking back on your life thinking, how did I end up here? I never thought I'd be saying I'm 60 years old, but I'm very proud of where I've ended up at 60 years old. Not just my physical abilities, the way I look, the fact that I've maintained a physique that is one that has allowed me to create a brand called the Maximized Man Elite Coaching Program, CBX. It's really created my entire life for me. Like, being a fit guy has been what I've done forever, and being able to maintain that to 60 years old was phenomenal. And that was my goal, was to come into 60 years old and just look as best as I could, like have abs, be physically capable of doing different things, playing football, all the stuff that I love. That was my number one goal, to really just look a certain way. So I was a little bit, I guess, ego driven in the sense that, you know, I want to look a certain way. But at the same time, I use that to hook men online. So if you see me online, you see me throwing footballs, I got my shirt off, I'm being a little bit cocky sometimes, but it's all in an attempt to stop people, hook people, and get you to listen long enough that you can hear the message that's underneath all of that bravado and change your life. So one of the things that I'm not going to do anymore is I'm not bringing sponsors on and talking about other brands. Really what I want to do is drive you back to my coaching, because this is what I've learned in all of my years in working in this industry. Most men are waiting for the perfect time to get started. Most men have put themselves on the back burner and slowly ended up in a body that they're not happy with, they're not comfortable with, they're ashamed of in many cases, won't take their shirt off at the pool, whatever the situation is. I don't want men to feel that way. And it's not necessarily about looking a certain way. That's a great byproduct of all of the work that we do at the Maximized Man Elite program, but really being healthy is what it's all about. So that is what I'm doing, is I just really want you, if you're going to click a link, I want you to click a link that leads you to learning more about my coaching program and how I can help you achieve better health through fitness. And again, the 5 principles are mindset. The single most important thing in changing any part of your life, whether it's financial, relational, spiritual, or any of that, is your mindset. And that word in and of itself, mindset, describes what you need to do. You need to set your mind to whatever goal it is that you have. The problem with most men, most people, anyone who's embarking on, let's say, a fitness program, is they haven't set their mind. They just, willy-nilly go online and Google how to lose weight, best diet, best trainer, whatever it is, and kind of go in it without setting their mind to the fact that it's going to take time. It's not going to be easy. There will be sacrifice involved. But with all of that said, if you set your mind to doing whatever it is that you're asked to do for as long as it takes to get you there, then anybody can make a change. And again, it's not about looking a certain way. That's definitely an ancillary benefit of doing the work. But the number one goal for me now, at this age, with this diagnosis and having lost my brother, is for you to be healthy. And, I've been very emotional since all of that. And I am today because I'm actually getting on a plane here in a couple days and going back to Ohio to settle my brother's affairs and clean up his house, get it ready to sell, and see my mom again, who's in a home. I saw her while I was back in Ohio, and that's hard, seeing your mom. Like, we're all around the same age. If we're around the same age, we're all in the same boat. Our parents are getting older. We're facing the fact that, we're not that young, spry guy that we used to be. So the decision comes like, what am I going to do about it? That really is the bottom line. What am I going to do about it? Do I want to be the guy who just accepts status quo and gains 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds and doesn't take any action and do anything about it? That certainly isn't me. And my goal is for not to be you. I don't want you to be that guy, because I know the effects of having the mindset to do the work to get the results, because I literally wake up every single day of my life, and that's not an exaggeration. Every single day of my life, I have the privilege of picking up my phone and getting a text message or going on a WhatsApp thread or my Facebook community or a DM, whatever it is. I have the privilege of getting a message from one of the men in my coaching program, or just watching conversations that I'm not even involved in, where I'm seeing men change, like men from every single walk of life, super wildly successful guys with billion-dollar companies to guys that are making it day by day. We're all in the same boat. We want to change and we want to grow. So that's what I want you to think about as I shift the conversation from just bringing a guest in who might be talking about something that doesn't necessarily pertain to being an older man, to it being a podcast that is directed towards you. I want you to be able to take away information from this, whether it's just something that's meant to be encouraging, like what I'm saying now, or a topic like testosterone, boosting testosterone naturally, marriage after so long and how hard that can be and how rewarding it can be, raising your children and watching them go through the struggles of their own with relationships and all of that. And I'm saying all of these things because it's currently what I'm going through in my life. So to summarize and go back to how I started, diagnosed with prostate cancer, lost my older brother, and in my opinion, he didn't need to go. 60 years old, watching my mom slowly fade away mentally, physically, spiritually, like I'm seeing her spirit leaving her body. So it's very sobering. And I really want you to understand that the Clark Bartram that you think you know isn't necessarily the Clark Bartram that's sitting here today. It's a new and improved version that is going through things that the way that I'm viewing them are allowing me to become a better version of myself. I don't want any of these things to affect me in a way that makes me less than. I want it to make me more than. So that's the perspective that I want you to walk away with today as you are reintroduced to the new version of me that I'm referring to as Clark Bartram version 6.0. I used to have my birthday be at the next birthday, I'm going to be in better shape. I want to be in better shape. That was always my goal. But I was having a conversation with somebody not too long ago, and they talked about operating systems on computers. And they had mentioned version 2.0, and it hit me right then. because my birthday was just a couple weeks away. And I thought, I'm not going to look at my birthday as in years, but as in versions of myself. So at the age of 60, I am now looking at myself as version 6.0. All of the different operating systems that have been upgraded along the way, I am now operating at a much more efficient and capable system without all of the clutter. Remember back in the day when you used to, maybe you can still do this, but I used to get a lot of joy out of watching my computer defrag. So that's the framework that I want you to put in your mind as you look at your life in these versions of 4.0 to 5.0 to 6.0, 40, 50 to 60. When you defrag that computer, it would show you all of those blocks. And then within the big block, there were smaller blocks that were gaps and they were wasted space. So the idea in my simple mind of defragging the computer was to eliminate all of that wasted space, all of that emptiness that was in there that wasn't serving any purpose. It got infected, it filled up with junk along the way, and our lives are the exact same way. So if we can think about defragging our life and compressing the files, what we've learned, what we've experienced, the people that have come into our lives and gone out of our lives have all left some sort of imprint. So as you go to the next version of yourself, version 6.0 for me, I've defragged all of that. And defragging for me includes eliminating people from my life who are no longer adding value to my life. I love the poet, the sage, philosopher Tupac when he said, just because you've lost me as a friend doesn't mean you've gained me as an enemy. I still want to see you eat, but not at my table. That's how I think about people in my life who are no longer serving a purpose. I heard it said like this: people are in your life for a season, a reason, or a lifetime. So as it relates to people, it's okay if they're not in your life for a lifetime. They were there for a season, and what was the reason that they were there? What value, what lesson did they bring you? Maybe it was the frustration at the end of the relationship that you may have had. And I'm referring back to my life and all of what I'm going through that I learned from, like some frustration. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, I'm going to let that go and defrag that part of my life and maximize my operating system, because that person's no longer in my life. They were there for a season and a reason, but they weren't a lifetime person. So those are some of the ways that I'm defragging. I am eliminating crap from my life that I used to have in there, alcohol and food that isn't really good for me. I used to get upset at people online that would troll me for saying, Clark, why are you telling people to eat that? And I was like, hey, mind your business. They were right. They were right. And I need to understand that those things aren't necessarily adding any value, because the world that we live in is so full of toxic things, from food to substances to disruptors in the atmosphere in the world that we live in. So what can you eliminate in that area of your life? And I'm asking you these questions right now as you look at your life in perspective to what you have going on. So you've got the relationships, you've got the toxic things, whether they're people or substances or whatever, chasing after stuff. Like the older you get and the more you realize how short and precious life is, you realize that a lot of stuff that you accumulate. When I walked in here and talked to my buddy Jim, who's just been so gracious to me over the years, he said, I got a lot of stuff. And it made me think about all of the stuff that we accumulate. Look, I have more shoes than I'll ever need in a lifetime. I literally never need to buy another pair of shoes again. And I look back on all of those purchases that were so important to me at one time and realize it's just another pair of shoes. Yeah, I liked them. They looked cool. They would look great with these jeans or whatever. But at the end of the day, nobody, honestly, except for maybe a few people, would look at them and go, oh, those are cool shoes. But what does that matter to me anyway? So I still like nice things. I still want nice stuff around me, but I'm not consumed by the idea of I need to go out and work harder and longer to get these sorts of things. So I'm eliminating people. I'm eliminating toxins. I'm eliminating these things that I used to chase after, including money, that aren't necessarily as important as they were to me at one point. Now, you're in a different place than I am, obviously, but all I'm doing here is giving you food for thought, as they say, so you can just kind of observe where you're at and take inventory and see if any of what I'm saying is of any value. And if it is, apply it where you can. And if not, so be it. That's great too, because another thing that I realize is I'm just another person. I'm just another guy. And a lot of people will put me on a pedestal. I don't want to be up there. Never really wanted to be up there. It's always made me a little bit uncomfortable, but I do realize that in this world that we live in, we're given certain titles and certain responsibilities. You know, the scripture says, to whom much is given, much is required. And the comic books say, with great power comes great responsibility. I realize that because I have a certain amount of followers, or because I look the way I do, that certain people are going to look to me with this desire to get something from me that they can apply to their life. And I certainly want to do that, but I also realize in that one day I'm no longer going to be here, and it won't matter anymore. Maybe I'll leave some wisdom with some people, hopefully my kids and some of the people that are really in my circle of influence. But at the end of the day, I realize I'm just another guy. You know, that is it. I don't buy into this hype and all of the fluff that people try and blow in your face to make you think you're better than someone else. One of my favorite sayings is, I'm no better, you're no worse. We're all on the same level here. Just because I look a certain way or you have that much money doesn't make me any better or you any worse, or you any better or me any worse. It just makes us different people. So I'm going to end it here with that. And I just hopefully have given you a lot to think about with respect to this new idea of what I'll be doing with the Maximized Man podcast. Now I'm realizing that I need to get another logo to put on the different streaming platforms. But I do want to thank you for tuning in, because I realize that your time is precious. It really is. And if you don't realize that, that's what I want you to take away from this, is that your time is precious and you only get so much of it. Look, don't waste time fighting with people, arguing, fussing, complaining, comparing, consuming, and doing all of these things that are just a complete waste, man. I'll still do that on certain things because it's just the nature of us as humans, but I'm doing my best to really compress those files and defrag my life so I can operate on a much higher level. So thank you for tuning in to the Maximized Man podcast. Until next time, make it a great day.